Welcome to the LTC podcast, where we bring people from across the industry together to talk about what really makes the hospitality industry shine, the people. We will offer insights, guidance and best practices when it comes to caring for the licensed hospitality workforce. In each episode, we'll be sitting down with someone from the industry or an expert in their field. We're diving into the real stuff, the challenges, the triumphs and everything in between, to figure out how we can make our workplace better and happier for everyone. Our mission, it's pretty simple. We want to make sure that those of us in hospitality aren't just serving others, but also taking great care of ourselves and our colleagues. Thanks so much for joining us today. Could you give us a little bit of an idea as to who you are and what you do?
I can. Thank you for having me. So my name is Gabrielle Spendlove. That is my posh name. Most people just call me Gabs. And I work for a company called Nudge. So Nudge provide financial education to people all over the globe. But in this instance, we provide financial education to people in the industry through LTC. So I work in a team called Community Engagement Team, which means I get to go out and do lots of podcasts, lots of recordings, lots of masterclasses, reaching our wonderful user community.
Amazing. So could you give us an idea as to what financial well-being actually is?
Yeah, so I think for lots of people, and even for me at one point, financial well-being felt like a little bit of a myth. It kind of felt like this thing that like rich and famous people achieved, financial freedom, that's not going to be in my sight. When actually, when we strip it back, it's really about giving people access to the right kind of education, the right kind of tools, the right kind of resources. Because then what that does is it builds their confidence. So over time, they are building confidence, they're building skills, building knowledge, and that then creates financial well-being. I think if you asked most people, what does your idea of financial well-being look like? Most people would say, oh, it's having £1 million in the bank, it's winning the lottery, it's paying my mortgage off. When actually it's thinking, okay, that money would be great, but if you didn't know how to maximize that money or protect that money, it's a bit pointless to have that money. So that is what financial wellbeing is all about, kind of building confidence, building skills and knowledge for people.
Do you think that it's kind of only lately that is kind of on people's mind now? Do you think that previously that's not something that people have kind of shown an interest in or felt like that they needed?
Yeah, I think money has always been on everyone's mind, but it's always been either you have it or you don't have it, and that's the end of that. Like that's kind of how people saw it. Whereas now, and I think especially post-pandemic, people are starting to think, actually, financial well-being is at the heart of my own well-being. It's not just mental well-being I need to consider, it's how my finances are impacting my overall life. And no matter who we are, how much money we've got, whether we're financially educated or not, money does touch every aspect of our lives. I mean, we're filming this during the sort of festive period, and this is an extremely stressful time for people. So I think, more people are aware of the connection between mental health and financial well-being, but there is still that gap when it comes to confidence or financial literacy. And then ultimately that is what Nudge is trying to close. So if I talk about for a little minute my own experience, I left school with zero financial skills. Like I ended up in a load of credit card debt by the age of about 23, purely because I just thought credit cards were like free money. I had no thought to what this actually meant in terms of my future self or paying it back. And I think financial education plays a huge role in people's lives. Like we need to understand the good, the bad and the ugly when it comes to money. So we know how to act on it, we know how to make the most of it, but also we know how to be financially resilient as well.
And I guess like the knock-on effect of not having that financial education can be like really detrimental, and it has such a huge impact on people's lives, physically and mentally.
Yeah. It's as well, it's about maximizing your financial opportunities. It's about actually, we can't always give people, I mean, wish we could, a magic checkbook that gives them extra cash, but actually we can say, here's the things that you can be doing to maximize your financial potential. Here's what you can be doing to help you understand the world of money more. And ultimately Nudge's goal is to make the world of money simple and stress-free, because we are under no illusion that for loads of people, if you start talking about finance or, you know, money, people give you a little bit of an eye roll and they're like, oh, no, thanks. Not for me. Like, this is a bit boring. Like, so we want actually people to find it really engaging, really simple to understand, because that's going to do two things. Helps them to drive action, and then it helps them to plan whatever their financial future looks like.
What tips could you give to help somebody better manage their finances?
So what I would say for everyone is, no matter who you are, no matter how old you are, no matter what spare cash you've got, go back to a budget. Do a budget every single month. Do one on a monthly basis and do one on an annual basis. So what it will do is it will give you sort of a full picture of what's going in, but also what's going out. And I'm so bad for this sometimes. If I don't stay on top of my budget every month, all of a sudden I'll go for a period where I think, where has all my money gone? And then you go back through your bank statements, don't you? And go, oh, yeah, Amazon and Costa and all this other stuff. So do a budget. It's going to do two things. One, it's going to make sure that you're making the most out of your money. But two, it's also going to allow you to create a plan for your money. So, right, actually, what am I doing over the next 3, 6, 9, 12 months? What do I need to start financially preparing for? All of my friends laugh at me, actually, because I'm one of these sad people that starts planning for Christmas in January, because I hate it when you have to have November, December, super stressful months. Then you don't get paid till what feels like, 2 years later, do you? So, yeah, do a budget. That's the first thing that I would say to do. Budgets also don't have to be boring. So for anyone listening to this, don't rush to create, a fancy spreadsheet. We've got a really simple budget planner on Nudge that people can literally pop in their expenses. We'll make sure you've got everything in there, and then you can keep a track of it. And then what the platform very cleverly does is, if you've got an underspend, which is obviously wonderful, it'll go, here's what you could be doing with that cash to maximize your opportunity. If you're overspending, it will go, okay, here's the bits where we think you're overspending on. Here's how you can cut back. So yeah, go to the Nudge platform and use the budget.
That's brilliant. It takes away the thinking,
yes,
right?
It does.
Makes it easy. You can't argue against doing that.
You can't. Anything that makes my life easier, I'm all about. So yeah, definitely doing a budget. So that's more of on like a monthly basis. And then I would say this time of year is a great period to look back on what you spent money on this year. So I know lots of people in the industry have fluctuating incomes. So try and average out kind of what you roughly spent per month on holidays, birthdays, all that kind of stuff. And then start preparing from January. Okay, I'm going to put £20 a month into birthday funds, even if there's no birthdays this month, to help with those months where there feels like there's loads. So yeah, annually as well as monthly. The other thing to then do is, once you've kind of analysed your budget, is to go, right, what strategy is going to best suit me? So there's a couple of different ones you can do. In fact, there's loads, but these are sort of two most popular ones. So the first one is to use something called the 50-30-20 budget. So this is where you look at your income for the month and you say, 50% of my salary is going to be spent on my rent, my water, my gas, my electricity, travel, etc. Basically the essentials that we have to pay for. 30% is for you to go and live your best life. Whatever you want to do in this world to bring you joy, you can use 30% of your salary to do that. And then the remaining 20%, you can either save it or pay off debt. Now, that isn't for everyone. Obviously, people's outgoings at the minute are actually exceeding that 50% limit. So you can tweak it. You could do certain percent for this, certain percent for this. But it's all about making sure we've got essentials covered, a little bit for fun, and then a little bit to either save or pay off debt. Now, me personally, that doesn't work for me, because I'm a nightmare, because that 30% will be gone within a few days. Yeah. So it's almost pointless me doing that. So the other method, if anyone listening is a little bit like me, is to split it into loads of different pots and jars. Now, you can do this with a couple of the online banking tools. So the one I use, I'm not promoting these at all, but the one I use is Starling. So they allow you to open up lots of different pots within one bank account. So if you scroll through my bank account, you'll see I've got, a pot for food shopping, a pot for petrol, a pot for dog food, a pot for coffees. So I know exactly what's happening through the month. Even coming down to London today, because I've come from Sheffield, I've got a little pot that's go to London for the Christmas do. So I know that that's where all my money's going. And for me, that's helped me to stay so much more in control of things, rather than just having it all in one bank account thinking, oh, I'm a millionaire for the first like week, and then after that it's beans on toast. Yeah.
I love that. That's a really, really good
Yeah.
idea. And I'm like just thinking about like my bank account. I have that option as well, but I have my main account and then I have a savings pot and that's it. So I think I'm going to try that.
And some people do like doing it with separate, like totally separate accounts. So
Yeah.
they'll have one that will pay for their fun stuff, one that's for direct debits, one that's for sort of food and fuel and all the kind of variable expenses, but that still need to be paid. So yeah, it's choosing the method that's right for you.
Amazing. Brilliant. So if we think about people working in hospitality, you know, there can be lots of shift work and, you know, through different times of the years, different seasons, hospitality is busier and then it gets quieter. How would you suggest people kind of look at managing their finances when their salaries are kind of fluctuating coming in?
I think the first thing to do, which sounds obvious, but it's always a good reminder, is to just look at what your baseline outgoings are. So month on month, what are the absolutely essential things? And I always think this is why budgeting is important, because I always say this to my husband. I think if he didn't write it down every month, he would probably forget like what day Netflix comes out. And because they're not loads of money, they're £10, £15, you often forget them. But when you're on a fluctuating income and one month you've got a lower income, it's important that we need to know all of these different things. So write all of them down. In those months that feel a little bit healthier than others, so those months where probably this time of year you've got loads of shifts and it feels like you're always at work, put a little bit away, like for each month where you think actually January might be quieter, or I don't know, May is always a quiet month. So make sure you've got a little bit put away. And then I think if you can, start an emergency fund. So start small and think big is what we always say. Just in case anything happens, you know, an unexpected bill, car breaks down, boiler's on the blink, the kids come home from school and they're like, oh, we've got a school trip or we need new school shoes. That way you can then rely on a little emergency fund rather than maybe an expensive credit card or an overdraft. So yeah, they're the kind of things that I would do. And I think just engaging with your finances, it can be easy to bury your head in the sand when you're thinking, oh, there's nothing I can personally do about it. But I think no matter who you are, what your circumstances are, there's always something we can be doing to plan and prepare. I mean, years ago, even when I first worked at Nudge, I had a second job working in a bar because I was paying off all of that debt that I decided to rack up as a 23-year-old. And even before that, I was on like low paid jobs. And I really wish I could go back in time and like tell previous Gabs, not future Gabs, to think about her money on a monthly basis and like plan ahead a little bit more. So yeah, that would be my tips. Kind of going back to the questions, it is just about finding what works for you.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, to kind of add in another question to all of this, lots of people say, like, on sessions, what's the best way for me and my partner to, like, manage our finances? And I always say there is actually no right or wrong way. Some people prefer still having separate finances but paying all joint bills from kind of one account. Some people will pay an allowance. So, for example, I will be going on mat leave next May, but when I return back to work, my husband's going to go part-time and I'm going to carry on going full-time. So we've kind of figured out that for us, the best thing to do was have it all in one. Other people would prefer to pay an allowance. Like, it's just, that's also part of this. It's finding what works for you and just having conversations about it. Try it for a month. Like, go, okay, let's try putting everything together. Does that work? No. Okay, let's try paying ourselves a little bit of cash at the end of the month. So yeah, just
because there's no point like forcing yourself into a situation that like it's ultimately it's always going to fail. If it's not working, just because that you've seen somebody say, oh, this is how you should do it, or this has worked really well for me, it doesn't necessarily mean that that is then right for you as an individual or family.
Exactly. And that's what we say to like anyone who comes on masterclasses. That is for us one of the best things about Nudge. So loads of financial products, I mean, they're brilliant, but they have a hidden agenda. So they'll want to kind of sell you a bank account or a credit card or a loan. Whereas with Nudge, it is just purely about impartial financial education that's right for you. So you can log onto the platform, you can go through the tools, go through the resources and go, okay, I love that. I'm going to try that. Don't love that so much, but thanks for letting me know about it. And there's no hidden agenda. So yeah, just do what's right for you as well.
Well, that leads me nicely on to the next question, which is how does Nudge help with financial well-being? And I guess if we think about it, LTC and Nudge have a partnership, so through LTC people can sign up to Nudge. How could that help somebody?
Yeah, so we've spoken a lot about the practical side of things, and actually this like fountain of knowledge that we're kind of drawing from today is the Nudge platform. So for anyone who's listening who is thinking, she's talked about Nudge loads, what is she on about? So we provide financial education to people, as you just said, through LTC, and we give people access to a platform. So you can sign up to a financial education platform. It's completely free. The wonderful team at LTC have paid for this for you because they want to support you with your well-being, and in this instance financial well-being. So when you log on to the platform, it kind of works in 3 key ways. So we work in giving people timely prompts, we have loads of financial education, and then we give them the right tools, and those 3 things kind of work harmoniously together. So just to kind of dive into it a little bit more, nudges are basically a nice little prompt. So even when you're not on the platform, we'll send you a quick WhatsApp or an email to go, hey, saw that you were looking at budgets, have you remembered to do your budget this month? Or saw you were interested in debt, have you remembered to do a debt health check? We'll also nudge you when something important happens. So the recent autumn budget that came out, we sent nudges out for that, and it just simplifies, okay, what's this complicated topic, but actually how do we simplify it? How do we make it matter to me? So that's nudges. The education side of things really is all about helping you self-educate. So we make it super simple. There's loads of articles, lots of different posts. There's 30 personal finance topics, which sounds like a lot when I'm saying it, but
a lot.
yeah, 30 is a lot. But when you're on the platform, you can personalize it to you. So you don't have to see all those 30 personal finance topics. I mean, you can if you want, but you can personalize it to you. And then the final part is the tools side of things. So we've got a budget planner, we've got savings tools, we've got inflation tools, all helping you to actually model out your kind of goals. So if you're wanting to be better at budgeting, you're wanting to learn how to be a better saver, you're wanting to think about how inflation is impacting your money, you can then go on and use the tools. You shouldn't have favourites, but I am going to call out my favourite. So one of my favourite, if not my favourite parts of the platform, is something called our financial health checkup. So we always say at Nudge, actually being financially well is knowing what you're doing really well and where you can actually improve. But sometimes you don't know where those room for improvements are. So we ask people 12 questions. So it kind of goes without saying, those answers are kept confidential. Once you've answered that, we then give you a score out of 100. Once you've got that score, we then give you a plan of action. So we'll go, okay, your score's 50 out of 100. Here's what you do brilliantly. Here's where you can improve. And here's the stuff on the platform that you can go and read or take action on, which will then boost that score. So yeah, that's one of my favourite things to nudge.
Yeah, it's so good. And I like that it's personalised. So, we're all different. Everyone's kind of circumstances are different. The fact that you can kind of tailor the experience to the individual must be really beneficial, because like you said, if you don't want to throw through tons of things that you think, are irrelevant to you, then that's going to make a massive difference to actually kind of improving things.
Exactly. And that's one of our key things at Nudge. It's the personalisation element. You can go on, you can tell us, if you have dependents, what your housing goals are, what topics you want to learn about. Because like you said, if you're logging onto a platform where you're having to scroll through loads of stuff where you're thinking, this doesn't matter to me, I'm not interested in senior support or childcare, but I am interested in budgeting or investing or whatever it is. So the personalisation element to Nudge for me is so important, because that's why we call it personal finance, because everybody who uses Nudge is going to use it slightly differently and have slightly different interests. But the baseline is everyone getting access to financial education.
So how can parents kind of teach their children about money management, kind of being financially aware? I guess, if we think about when I was, younger and growing up, this isn't something that was kind of spoken about a lot. So how can you start them early with the basics without, terrifying them as well?
Exactly. Well, you can actually start talking to them, not to scare anyone, about money from the age of 3 and 4, which seems like a lot. Now, we're obviously not saying, sit down down and talk to them about mortgages age 3 and 4, but you can start to introduce the world of money. So little plastic coins, plastic cash, you know, the play tills and stuff. It's introducing them to that idea of money. And then as they go through, you can start doing that, you know, age 6, 7, 8, 9 to different types of goals. So there's some brilliant resources on the platform which go through those milestones, you know, right from the age of 3 right to them being sort of 18, of the different things that you can do with your children to teach them about money. But I think the basics, kind of 3 key things, if we were going to talk about, first of all would be, I introduce them to an idea of a budget. So sit them down, talk through household budgets probably from about the age of 8 or 9. You can do this. You don't have to tell them the ins and outs of your full household budget, but just a general idea of, okay, Wi-Fi isn't free, electricity isn't free, water isn't free. Another good activity to do with them, and you can do this again from age 5, 6, is to go shopping with them. You can give them £5 and say, okay, you've got to get all the ingredients for our family meal, and this is what you've got to spend. So it's just getting them involved in that kind of activity. The second thing is pocket money. Now, pocket money actually plays a key part in creating good financial habits, and normally I'll get someone say to me, you know, well, how much should I be giving my children? And actually there's no right or wrong answer, because first of all, I have no idea what people's financial circumstances are. So it'd be completely wrong of me to say, oh yeah, it should be this amount. But actually it's just about giving it on a regular basis. So let's say you want to give your children £2 a week or £5 a week. Just give it on a regular basis, because what that does is it gets them into that habit of, right, this is when I get my pocket money. These are the jobs I have to do to get that pocket money. If I go and spend it all on the first day, I don't get bailed out then till the next lot of pocket money comes in. So it gets them into those good habits. It can be really tempting to want to bail them out, but don't. You're going to have to be cruel to be kind. And it's kind of that old saying of, you know, money doesn't grow on trees. So once it's gone, it's gone. And then the other thing you can do is apply that 50, 30, 20 that we spoke about earlier to their pocket money. So you could say, right, 50% of your pocket money we are going to use to pay towards your club. So I don't know, football or whatever it is that they do. 30% of your pocket money you are allowed to spend on whatever you want, but the 20% you're going to be saving that. So you're going to pop that away. And again, introducing that idea of saving to them. If they want something big, they have to save up for it. So yeah, that's my two top tips. I'm trying to think if there's anything else.
I love that one though, about applying the, you know, and actually, you know, because we do pocket money for our kids, but they have it on one of those cards and on the app, but we don't actually make them pay for anything. And so in the new year, I'm going to make them pay for their clubs that they want to do, because that is so, like, it's such a great way of looking at it. And, you know, it's nice to be able to let them kind of go, well, you've got this chunk of money that you can buy something that you really want, but kind of, you know, showing them that actually if they're interested in doing something and that's what they want to do, then they can kind of fork up for some of it as well from what they have. I really like that idea.
Yeah, me too. My mum-in-law always talks about, she was like the mean mum when my husband was like 16, because he got a job at 16, like as well as going to college, and she took £5 a week off him for board, and he was like, that's so mean, like none of my friends' parents do that to me. But when he was like 17, 18, went on his first lad's holiday, she gave him the cash back and was like, this is the power of saving, because now you've got like whatever it was, 300 quid or whatever saved up, and if you'd have put that £5 away, and that like stuck with him, and he's like, even little bits every week make a big difference over the long run. So yeah, just little things like that.
I like that. Cruel to be kind.
Cruel to be kind. I wish my mum and dad had been more like cruel to be kind money. I had like polar opposite parents when it came to money. Like my mum lived on the never never. Like everything my mum had was on credit. Like she literally treated like her next directory account as if it was like her personal shopper. Like she just constantly ordering stuff. My dad was the total opposite. He like never spoke about money, thought it was really rude, like to bring it up. And they had completely separate finances. I don't think my dad had any idea what was going on in my mum's world. And I went somewhere between them two. So I like had my mum's really bad spending habits, but my dad's inability to talk about money. So then when I got into debt, I just didn't say anything. I just took on more debt to kind of cover up the fact that I was already in loads of debt, which was such a silly thing to do. But Yeah, talking about money is also a key part of being financially well.
Which often, I think, especially in work capacities as well, people find it really, really difficult. But as much as, you know, if we look at mental health, like having those conversations, opening up, find somebody that you're comfortable talking to can make the world of difference. And I think that's where like the LTC helpline comes in really nicely, because some people, you know, find it really difficult to open up to people who know them and are, you know, their friends, their work colleagues, and actually speaking to somebody who doesn't know you. And you're not even doing it face to face, it's over the phone, can kind of take away some of that worry. And I think, yeah, by having that conversation, that often is the hardest step, making, you know, picking up the phone. But that person at the end of the line is there to help you and can help you, but you have to almost be ready to do it as well.
Yeah, there is an element to, it's like the 7 stages of financial well-being. You kind of go from being almost financially avoidant, where you just can't possibly think about bringing this up to anyone, to then going into that state of financial awareness where you're like, okay, I need to talk to someone about this, or, you know, I need some help or some support. And we're in a unique position at the minute where I think pre-pandemic people wouldn't necessarily say, oh my goodness, my mortgage has gone up, I have no idea how I'm going to pay this. Whereas now, actually, I would say probably 90% of people are in the same boat. Everyone's energy bills have gone up, everyone's fuel costs have gone up, most people's rent and mortgage have gone up. So we're in this unique position where people are talking about it a little bit more, which is sad because it's rubbish that everyone's bills are going up, but actually it has created this culture of openness between people. And it's not quite so bad to say to someone, I have no idea what I'm going to do in terms of paying this energy bill, or, you know, so
Yeah. And yeah, I think, again, just having that conversation, it can just be a conversation, but it's a load shared, like, which instantly can help. It's so important.
Yeah, problem shared is a problem halved, right? So
So how does it differ, somebody using Nudge who might be in their early 20s versus somebody who's in their 50s, maybe heading towards kind of retirement?
Yeah, so when we talk about Nudge, there's no age limit on it. You know, it's not someone who can only use Nudge when they're struggling, or it's not someone that's only a young person that can use Nudge. Nudge supports its users through every life stage. So let's use the example of, right, okay, we've got someone who's in their early 20s who's moved to London for the first time, and their rent is really high, and they're just a little bit worried about their money and mental health, you know, how one is impacting the other. So they could log on to Nudge, they could use one of our stories. So they're kind of like step-by-step learning modules, which will go through things like how to be better with their everyday spending, how they can use a story to prioritize and manage debt, or how they can maximize their everyday finances. So they would be using it for things like that. They can obviously then set up their personal interests. So this could be, I don't know, whether it's investing, sustainability, everyday finances, and then they'd start to get those nudges, versus someone who was maybe a little bit further down the line, who was, let's say, 50, where retirement is 15 years off, and maybe they're thinking, actually, I don't know if my pension is going to cut it, or, you know, have I got enough money for retirement? They could again use Nudge to check in on their pension plan, to make sure that they're understanding what steps they need to take to maximise it. Do they understand all of their options? And then they can also use it for stuff like, you know, if the kids are going off to university, or what does that mean for them? So yeah, you can use it in a whole range of different ways. We would probably have a massively long podcast if we were like, right, these are all the topics, these are all things. I would say to everyone who's listening, just go and sign up to it. It's completely free. Set up your profile and then just explore the stuff that's on there, because there's so much, and it can be uniquely tailored to you and your circumstances. And everything we do is underpinned by the fact that we're not going to sell you anything, and we're going to give you the option to personalise your journey.
Amazing. So what exactly is Nudge?
So Nudge is a useful resource. It's a tool and a platform for people to get access to. And the whole idea behind Nudge is that we coach you to better understand your money. So we believe that when people better understand their money, they are more likely to be financially empowered, they're more likely to take action, and then ultimately they're more likely to plan and achieve their financial wellbeing goals. So on a whole, it's a platform that provides you with tools and resources which improve your financial wellbeing.
So how does our financial well-being interact with our mental health?
So the two things are very closely linked. I describe this as being a little bit like, this relationship has been a little bit like going on the Waltzers at Skegness or the Pepsi Max at Blackpool, where you think it's a great idea and you think you've made all the right decisions. And then you get on this journey and you think, what is happening? Like, why have I done this? Who knew it was going to be this difficult? So one can seriously impact the other. So I'll talk about them in kind of two separate entities. So your money can impact your mental health. So a scenario where, I don't know, a job loss, a redundancy, an illness, that's a loss of income. So your money, which can then potentially impact your mental well-being. So it can cause stress, anxiety, sleepless nights. On the flip side, actually, having mental health problems can also impact the way that you manage your money. So people with mental health problems are overrepresented in lower paying roles and lower paying industries, and they're also much more likely to work part-time. So actually, those people are having to make their money work even harder before they're even having to do anything. So the two things are really closely linked. In terms of what is Nudge doing to help people close that kind of mental health income gap, we're again giving people access to tools and to resources to maximise the money that they have. So yeah, that's kind of a little bit about the link between the two.
And how can we start and have those conversations about money? What would you say to somebody who, is struggling maybe right now and hasn't spoken to anybody and is worried about doing that?
I think the first thing would be to think, actually, there is no shame. Like, even me today coming on this podcast, there's maybe an assumption that someone working for a finance company coming to talk about money has obviously always been good with their money. That's definitely not the case. So more people than you think will have struggled, and it can take on many shapes, forms, and looks different for everyone. So remember that you're not alone and there's no stigma. The second thing would be to reach out to someone in whatever capacity that looks like. Like you said, if it's ringing up the helpline because you're more comfortable talking to someone you don't know, whether that's just speaking to a friend or a family member, or whether that is just going away from today's session and using Nudge. Even if you're thinking, I'm not quite ready to talk, use the information and tools that you've got on offer. The second thing to do would be to create a comfortable setting. So everybody takes on information in different ways. So some people prefer to do a bit of a walk and talk. So out in the open with a loved one is the best way for them. Other people like to sit down at their kitchen table and get everything out on the table. So it's actually about thinking about what's best for you. And then let's say you are wanting to share this with your partner or a friend. There's nothing stopping you sitting down and going through Nudge together and saying, actually, I listened to a podcast today that we get through, LTC, and it's actually inspired me to take up this offering that they've got. Can we sit down together and go through it? I always say to my husband, I know these money dates that we schedule on exactly, the most exciting date night activity we do, but actually talking about money on a regular basis with a friend or a partner or whoever it is will definitely lighten the load and help you to feel more financially empowered.
We did a podcast about mental health yesterday, and that was exactly what Greg was saying, is that have the conversation while you're doing something else. It kind of, your focus is on maybe what you're doing. So like I said, if it's walking, if it's playing, pool, whatever it is, it can ease you into having that conversation. And I think that is really helpful.
And part of it is as well, like, use what's happening in the world right now as a catalyst, start a conversation. If you're thinking, how am I going to go up to like my partner or my best friend and say, hey, I'm really struggling with money or my mental health, you could be like, have you seen what's going on, like with all these energy prices? Like, obviously it's Christmas. Just using something like that to ease into the conversation. Or again, one of the features on Nudge is you can share articles with people. So you could see an article on the platform, you could share it with a friend or a loved one, and that can be your starting point for a conversation.
That's really good, actually. And that would be good if you kind of know somebody who is struggling and might need some help and has opened up. That's a really nice way of kind of, saying like, hey, I'm here for you. Like, I'm thinking of you. Have you seen this?
Yeah. And I think at this time of year as well, the expectation to like do everything is insane, isn't it? Whereas this year, sort of Christmas 2023, it's people actually going, okay, what is realistic for me and what can I afford? So always setting expectations, it never hurts, and people will probably thank you for being the bold one who was the one that set the expectation.
Exactly. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. Where can people find out more information about you and Nudge?
So you can find out more on how to sign up to Nudge on LTC's website. So we've got full information on there. It's super simple to sign up. You just need your email, and then you can create a password and we'll get you started. If you really want to follow up with me from today, you can follow me on LinkedIn. So we do lots of kind of financial, top tips and tricks on there. And you can find out more about Nudge either on our website or again by following us on socials as well. So my full name, if we're being super posh, is Gabrielle Spendlove Platt. So if you wanted to go away and follow up, you can do that as well.
Amazing. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.